We finished SAFE course, and I'm still trying to catch up. So this is, I looked at the teachings for week 12, and it's wonderful teachings. So I'm doing course 10, which is on wisdom. And in this week 12 teaching, so somebody asked Venerable a question about how dependent arising and this understanding can help our bodhicitta practice. What's the relationship between bodhicitta and dependent arising? So she gave 3 ways to think about it. And the first one, the first level of dependent arising on causes and conditions. So she says, when you see dependent arising in terms of causes and conditions, then we see sentient beings as lovable, because we see how everything we know and have, everything including our enlightenment, is dependent upon them. So this is talking about the sevenfold cause and effect method to generate bodhicitta. And my understanding this point will help us to generate heartwarming love, and then seeing the sufferings of the sentient beings, we will then generate great compassion. And that great compassion is the cause for bodhicitta. And then the second point she brought up was, when we see things as dependent upon parts, then we see that there's no person there to get angry. So then we let go of the anger that destroys our bodhicitta, because anger is the opposite of compassion. And if anger is in the mind, compassion cannot arise. So we need to, that particular mental factor of anger is very destructive, and we need to get rid of it so that compassion can arise, and then again bodhicitta. And the third one, she says, when we understand dependent arising in terms of things existing by being merely labeled depending on term and concept, then we can free ourselves from the discouragement that we often fall prey to or are plagued by on the bodhisattva path. This is because we realize that there is no inherently existent I who has any of these inherently existent negative attributes. And in the teaching, she was talking about discouragement, having negative views about ourselves, and just not thinking that this is possible. And recently we had a guest that verbalized that, just the idea of liberating all sentient beings, just no, the mind is unable to process that and go there. The path is too long, the goal is too big, everything is just too much, just overwhelmed. But then if we understand this, then there's no room for discouragement. So my takeaway from what she was trying to illustrate, because we had 11 straight weeks of emptiness, and it was hardcore, and she was bringing the 2 methods together, and that to tell us that in all our practice of the method side, you need that wisdom. If not, is whatever good, wonderful things we do is not going to be cause for enlightenment, not being cause for getting out of samsara. Okay, and now I want to talk about a person, to describe to you a person, and then I'll reconnect back to my point. So I think I learned of this person from my teachers when they talk about it, and when you talk to Tibetans, they know this person. So his name is Dr. Hermann Gemeiner, and he is an Austrian, great sponsor worldwide of building, I think his organization is called SOS Children's Village, and it's a huge international organization. And he was known very much for helping the Tibetans set up the Tibetan Children's Village, the TCV schools. And the people know him and are very grateful to him. And when I did a bit of Googling, I see Jetsun Pema, who is His Holiness's youngest sister, who's responsible for all the TCV, the Children's Village, the Tibetan Children's Village, had approached him for help when, very long ago in the 60s or 70s, to set up one in Ladakh, the TCV, when they were trying to get it going. And it sounded like he offered a lot of resources. And also the model when I read about of his organization of the SOS Children's Village and TCV school have a lot of similarities. So, and my teacher remembers him visiting their school at TCV and with His Holiness. And they were so happy to see him because he was so helpful to them. And I Googled him and looked, there was an obituary of him in the New York Times in 1986. So it describes him as an Austrian who had no children of his own, but provide homes for tens of thousands of homeless children around the world since World War II. And he died of cancer operation, and he was 66. He was born June 23rd, 1919, the seventh of 8 children of a poor farming couple in Austria, a village in Austria. His mother died when he was 4 years old, and at the age of 12, he was attending secondary school on his own with little aid from his father. A devout Roman Catholic, he earned money for school by serving Mass as an altar boy and by tutoring. In 1939, which he was 20 years old, he was drafted in the German army, rose to an officer's rank, and spent 6 years on the Russian front, where he was wounded 5 times. And then there was one incident where he described that he was saved by a Russian child, that there was a 7-year-old Russian farm boy who at first was terrified of him, but saved his life by yanking the arm of a Russian soldier who was about to shoot him. So that experience, he said in an interview in the New Yorker magazine in 1962, made him vow to repay the boy by helping the world's children. After the war, the sight of homeless children made him abandon his medical studies at the University of Innsbruck to pursue his idea for a children's village, which many said was impractical, but he succeeded. And he was quoted as somebody who said, where is mankind going if it is no longer mindful of the child? And what use are political successes and technological marvels if we are no longer able to prevent thousands of children from starving to death day after day? So it sounded like he's done so many great things and helped a lot of people, and very difficult childhood, and came up from there. And then in October this year, 2025, his organization issued a statement that's titled Facing Difficult Truths, Strengthening Our Commitment to Accountability and Care. And it says, as part of its ongoing review of past misconduct, SOS Children's Village, Austria, has identified 8 documented cases of alleged abuse connected to the organization's founder, Hermann Gemeiner, dating from the 1950s to the 1980s. We extend our deepest empathy, sorrow, and solidarity to all survivors who have endured harm. All 8 survivors went through the organization's victim support procedure between 2013 and 2023 and received recognition payments and therapeutic support. We acknowledge with deep respect the courage of those who came forward. It gives us the opportunity to confront our past and compels us to ensure full transparency and lasting change for the future. The harm inflicted lasting pain and violated the very values on which SOS Children's Village was built. So I was thinking, looking at this, like, does that negate what he's done? I don't think so. And I can use the wisdom aspect of Buddhism to look at this. And if we look at it like, if I look at it in terms of causes and conditions, there was probably many causes and conditions that allowed him to do that kind of good, help a lot of people. It sounds like tremendous. You speak to the Tibetans, they are in awe of this person that had helped them when they came to India as refugees with very little resources. And then, causes and conditions, again, that in our Buddhist worldview, that we all have seeds of afflictions. And one of my teachers described it as, if one person tells you you are very wonderful, what you did is great, you could still kind of stay quite humble. 10%, maybe 100, yeah, probably. If you are pretty stable, 1,000 people tell you you're awesome and really, really like all the good things and you are the best things ever. And then 10,000 people, like at what point will you let that get into your mind and your motivation flips? So if we don't have the foundation of wisdom, some things, there is always a point where you get overwhelmed. It goes to your head. Yeah. And when I look at, from dependent on parts, like what is it that I need to get angry about this person? His mind, which part of it, the part that is being generous and helping to build Tibetan children's village in Ladakh, or the one that is doing things that is not very nice to little children. When you keep looking at it, and even then, when we look at the parts bit by bit, it's very difficult to hold anger. The logical conclusion is compassion. Yeah, and then if we look at some that this is merely labeled, we look at it as terms. So where is that good person? And where is that bad person? And I think we call this falling from grace. Like, in the first place, who put it up there to fall off? Yeah. So as a conclusion, I want to go back to what we learned in the Middle 11th Lam Rim that Venerable Kadro taught quite many weeks ago. And this was, for me, the perfect answer to how we need to practice, because the two wings of the bird is, Jeffrey once says, it's not that one side do one thing and the other side do the other thing, that you need both of it simultaneously. So we need to keep practicing with that kind of view, so that whatever meritorious, virtuous thing we do will become a cause for our liberation, for our full enlightenment, rather than a cause for more samsara and then having that chance of afflictions arising and us doing things that's not very helpful. So this is page 267, and I really like this part. It says, those endowed with wisdom can accomplish without any contradiction two excellent qualities that appear to be opposed. Were Bodhisattva to become a universal monarch with power over the 4 continents, the minister of wisdom would prevent his succumbing to the sway of desirable objects. Likewise, although his love that sees sentient beings as likable is very strong, it is not even slightly mixed with attachment. Although he has lasting and intense compassion that cannot bear the suffering of sentient beings, he is without the laziness that is opposed by sorrow, and that does not delight in virtue. Although he possesses immeasurable joy, he is without the restlessness that distracts the mind from a focal object. Although he possesses great and continuous equanimity, he does not neglect the welfare of beings even for an instant. This is all owing to wisdom, because wisdom eliminates the obstacles to accomplishing a balanced strength. So I think that, to me, that is the answer to how we need to practice, and that if there are incidents that we see in our daily life in society and all that, and if we put that through that kind of lens, then for me it's a big impetus to really strengthen the wisdom side of the practice while trying to create virtue, and so that I can be balanced and that everything I do is informed by that wisdom. Then it can be a cause for liberation. It can be cause, just to be free of samsara, to no longer be subjected and be at the mercy of these afflictions. So may we do